Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, it really feels like a Trump resurgence. It really feels like finally the fog is dissipating and people are starting to see clearly. You know, that's why I'm always talking about contrast. It's such a powerful tool. Well, in this case, not just contrast and also hindsight. People took President Trump for granted. They viewed Trump as a non-different toxic element, that he was just like any other politician, plus the mean tweets. And so I think the popular view from independents, especially in the last election, was that Trump had to go because we needed to get back to normal. That was the thought process, I think, for a lot of people, but boy, was that a misguided view. Here we are 3 years later, and all of a sudden it seems like people are finally coming to the realization that Trump was much more than just a regular politician with bad Twitter habits. He was thoughtful, he was intelligent, genuine, charismatic, and most importantly, he was successful and did a good job. It only took a recession, an inflation crisis, a border crisis, a US dollar crisis, an Eastern European crisis, a Middle Eastern crisis, the fall of Afghanistan, and I don't know, Joe Biden falling like 7 times, for people to finally realize that the grass isn't always greener on the other side and that sometimes you should probably take a moment to appreciate what you got, especially when things are going well. I'm witnessing such an incredible phenomenon as so many formerly anti-Trump individuals are now coming to the realization that Donald Trump was actually a great president. And I got a clip here that I gotta show you guys featuring Chamath Palihapitiya. Probably butchered the name, but I tried my best. Take a look at this. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so let's first start off with this clip. Let's take a look at what they were saying, and then let's build on it and have a conversation.
The most important thing that is resoundingly obvious about Jared Kushner is that he is incredibly thoughtful and incredibly competent. And why did we have to spend years being fed all of these stupid lies? Because one can judge for oneself, but Jared Kushner is thoughtful, he's smart, and I thought to myself, I was fed all these lies for years about how this guy was like moping around in the shadows and this and that, and it was all not true.
Well, no, when I say it's non-traditional, if you sent, any president's son-in-law, daughter-in-law, whatever, child to go to the Middle East, on its surface, this seems insane. But in fact, they did good work. And so it's not traditional. It's not what you would expect.
He's thoughtful and competent. That's what I thought
that's what I got out of it as well, is that he's thoughtful and competent.
The thing that was smart about Trump was that he was willing to do business.
Yes.
He was willing to negotiate, and he didn't feel the need to make these moral condemnations all the time. He was willing to meet with Kim Jong-un. He was willing to meet with Putin and Xi Jinping, and he avoided criticizing them personally. He didn't call them dictators. He talked about how smart they are.
Yeah.
It's the art of the deal, right? I mean, at the end of the day, he's looking to do business. And we need a little bit more of that. And I think this is why Jared Kushner was successful, is he went in there with the mindset of a businessman.
Yeah.
How do we find something that's beneficial to both sides?
Totally right. I think that when Trump was elected, I was told that it was the end of the world. And that's what I thought. And I'd already underwritten him as an F. Okay. And then 4 years into the presidency, he was probably like a C in my mind. And then as I get a little bit of distance away, I realized, no, hold on a second. This guy was like a B plus. Like he was pretty good. And unfortunately, the few things that if he could have just pushed through would have really saved America. The biggest one being these 100-year bonds. It would have kept America from getting to the precipice of fiscal ruin. And we'd be in a highly different situation. And I'm not sure we could have ever given him credit for it. But the further and further I get away from him and the less emotional I am, he did a pretty good job. He was a pretty good president.
You know, the whole tone of that discussion seemed in a way regretful. It seemed like a group of people who were reminiscing about the past and thinking to themselves, man, we didn't see it when we had it. And that tends to be kind of a human flaw, you know? When you're experiencing success, it's not enough, right? You need more. You don't get to take the time and stop in the moment and appreciate your success, appreciate everything you've built. You're so focused on needing more and more and more. It's never good enough. Sometimes you need to stop and realize that you can't get everything. Donald Trump was not the full package. I think that's pretty fair to say. No politician will ever be the full package. Trump was great in a lot of different ways, but he had his flaws. He said things that the media could then either twist, take out of context, and attack him with. In some cases, he would get too defensive. When being attacked, he'd lash out, and then, of course, that would then be used against him. Those moments, of course, would then be capitalized on by his political opponents, and then people would be clutching their pearls. He certainly wasn't perfect. He wasn't the whole package. He didn't have everything right, but he had most of it right, especially when it came to policy, and especially when it came to foreign policy, diplomacy, and dealing with complex issues on the world stage. That's where Donald Trump should get the most credit. And I think they made a great point in that podcast. You know, with Trump, you didn't get the rah, rah, rah. Anytime anything happens, you get that emotional, violent response. You know, the typical neocon, Lindsey Graham, Nikki Haley warmongering response. No, Trump knew how to deal with it in a different way. His instant reaction wasn't, "We're gonna blow you to smithereens." He approached these issues with a more tactical, art-of-the-deal business approach. You know, that's something that every successful business owner probably understands quite keenly. That sometimes you're gonna have to play ball, sometimes you're gonna have to deal with people and deal with clients or organizations that you absolutely despise. But you have to shut your mouth, put the mask on, and negotiate. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And Trump's strategy worked. You know, we'll just say it again. It's not a coincidence that there were no new wars during the Trump administration. It's not a coincidence that he brokered so many peace deals. It's not a coincidence, it's not a surprise that Donald Trump was the first American president to step foot on North Korean soil, engaging in the first American diplomatic trip to the Hermit Kingdom in history. It's no surprise at all. And again, they hit the nail on the head. It's because he's a businessman. You know, it seems like in the world of politics, experience is a bad thing. Actually, that reminds me of the viral interview with Sean Hannity and Vivek Ramaswamy just a couple days ago.
Thank you.
About
Goodbye.
Azerbaijan, yes,
I've
you
got
did.
time to go.
About a
Thank you.
different topic, Azerbaijan, where people should actually get their own information rather than
I
filtered
will-
through centralized
I
media.
think it's asinine to think somebody that worked in the defense industry should not be qualified to be president. I think people that never held public office, like you, they're not qualified to be president. Anyway, we'll come back. We'll continue. Secretary of State.
Sean Hannity attacking Vivek for having no experience. You never worked in government and didn't work in the defense sector. You're unqualified. But again, it's a track record thing. Lifelong, multi-decade experienced politicians have a track record of what? Failure. Maybe we shouldn't view government experience as all that relevant. An experience in the defense sector, again, not exactly something that I view as necessary, and honestly something that I view as a possible conflict of interest, considering people who come from that world probably have some sort of personal interest to ensure that global instability continues and probably want to exacerbate it because it's big money for military contractors. The less government experience, the less defense sector experience, and the more business experience you have, then probably the better you are at governing. Hopefully people are waking up to the obvious fact that things were simply better under Donald Trump's leadership. Donald Trump not only was a good president, Donald Trump was a great president. He deserves credit for his success and his performance, and hopefully a lot of his detractors and people who doubted him in the past are finally coming around. Hindsight is a hell of a thing. When you view and understand things with less emotion, the truth tends to uncover itself. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.